Ladies and gentlemen, if there's anybody at the back of the room that would like to find a seat, believe me, there are lots in the cheap seats at the front. If anybody would like to make their way forward, plenty of room. Well, good afternoon. It seems a very, very long time ago since I stood up here, but I'm reliably informed it was only yesterday morning to open the conference. I think we've all spent a very busy 2 days here at the Chateau Frontenac, and I hope it's all been enjoyable and productive for all of you. We'll take that as a yes then, which is really good to hear. We have one of these at every conference, and it's not an award, which we'll get on to later. At some functions, you have a little place where you go for lost children. At our conference, we always have a place where you need to go for somebody has lost their conference bag. Robin Snoek Hogronia has lost his conference bag. It does have his name tag on it, so he gets 1 out of 10 for putting his name tag on it. He gets no more points because he's lost it. But apart from papers, it does have some stuff in it that Robin would value getting back. So if you could all check your conference bags at some point over the next hour or so to see if you've got Robin's, and if you hand it in to any of the SDI or TSA people, we'll make sure it gets back to Robin. So thank you for that. As they say, without further ado, may I introduce to you two of the most delightful American ladies in the room. One Erin and one Laurie from Tall Ships America. Thank you. It's a bit dark up here.
It is kind of dark.
There you go, guys.
Good afternoon. Before we start the awards presentations, we're going to draw the winning names for the raffle for the Ships of Glass ornaments. Ships of Glass sponsors our sail training awards each year, and they've provided these 3 lovely Christmas tree ornaments. So, without further ado, our first winner is Murray Henstock. Murray! The next one, the Margaret Todd. Ramona Rayfeld. And last but not least, the Nathaniel Bowditch. Cindy Campbell.
This is our final award of the Tall Ships Challenge Atlantic Coast Race Series 2015, the Perry Bowl Award. As the crew and the audience knows, the real fun of the Tall Ships Challenge races happens out of the public eye when the ships compete against each other out on the water. Our race from Cape May, New Jersey towards Montauk, New York had an awesome start. Picton Castle and Sagres crossed the line within minutes of each other, with Picton Castle receiving line honors. But Sagres persevered and is the 2015 Perry Bowl winner. I'd like to have Captain Mendez, former commanding officer of Sagres, accept the award on the ship's behalf.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain. I'd like to now introduce Lori Guire, Director of Operations for Tall Ships America, to present the 2015 Sail Training Awards.
It's a little hard to see up here. Each year at the annual conference on sail training and Tall Ships America honors a select group of sail trainers and supporters who have been recognized by their peers and fellow sail trainers for their outstanding contributions to the world of sail training. The annual award recipients are nominated by the membership of Tall Ships America, and the final winners selected by the board of directors and staff. What you'll be hearing are excerpts from the nominations that we received for each of these programs. Volunteer of the Year is awarded to an individual member of Tall Ships America who has significantly advanced our overall mission. The 2015 Volunteer of the Year was the American Operations and Logistics Director for the French replica frigate L'Hermione for her celebrated tour of the U.S. Atlantic coast during the summer of 2015. He worked for many years on the project, helping to plan and organize the tour, and was part of the delegation that came to Tall Ships America in 2012 to engage our collaboration. He helped to design the itinerary, visited and vetted potential ports, and he worked tirelessly to organize complicated logistical and maritime support for the vessel along the way. He also worked on the ship prior to her commissioning, trained with the crew prior to her departure from France, and he sailed in her across the Atlantic. His extraordinary efforts as a volunteer over many years of the project were critical to making the tour of L'Hermione such a triumphant success. The 2015 Volunteer of the Year Award is presented to Mark Jensen. Sail Trainer of the Year is presented to a member of Tall Ships America who has made a significant contribution to sail training through the demonstration of leadership by means of empowerment and inspiration. This man has committed his life to sail training, and through his dedicated teaching, many have learned not only valuable sailing and seamanship skills, but everlasting life lessons. The atmosphere aboard his vessel is one of hard work, balanced with humor and long days of teaching and sailing that wrap up with what can only be described as a big family dinner around the table. His enthusiasm and love for the art of sailing is infectious, and his desire to share this love through his wealth of knowledge is impressive and joyous. This man loves what he does and is crystal clear to all who sail with him. Sharing his knowledge and experience is his true passion. He has a quiet style of leadership that keeps everyone around him comfortable and yearning to learn more. He encourages growth by making you think for yourself and think for the good of the group. He knows how to handle the difficulties of being a captain. He doesn't get rattled, he doesn't fly off the handle, and he doesn't blame others. He demonstrates excellence, but is dedicated to making sure his crew achieves it. He often takes on brand new crew each spring and encourages them to take the skills they've learned from him and go on to experience a different boat with a different rig and a different captain so that they can continue to challenge themselves and to grow. He gives them positive reinforcement along their journey and lets it be known that he believes in them. The smiles that he sees when this is accomplished is the only reward he needs. He's in sail training for the long haul. He has dedicated himself, his boat, and his life to being a consistent force of professionalism. He has built a career based on long-term partnerships, programs that have proven success, and an inclusiveness for all ages and walks of life. He is a superb role model, captain, colleague, teacher, and friend. When it comes to leadership by means of empowerment and inspiration, there is no one more deserving. We are pleased to present the 2015 Sail Trainer of the Year Award to Captain John Edgington.
Thank you.
Long
Thank
overdue,
you.
John.
My goodness, I'm stoned.
Okay. Some of these are a little, pulling at the heart. So if I get a little weepy and I have to pause for a moment, it's just because I'm trying to picture you all naked so that I can get through it. Sail Training Program of the Year is awarded to a current Tall Ships America member program that significantly contributes to the development of seamanship, navigation skills, teamwork, and leadership skills. The program must be offered aboard a U.S. Coast Guard or nationally equivalent inspected vessel, must be offered by certified qualified personnel, must have clear training goals and a curriculum which is compatible to the Tall Ships America Sail Training Logbook, and must offer students the opportunity to demonstrate knowledge at sea by participating as active trainees in the running of the vessel. This vessel represents one of the last and most refined expressions of a technology millennia in its evolution. Yet beneath this complexity lies a willful simplicity. A sailing ship is a fugue of simple ideas and simple machines, repeated in subtle and complex variation. The purpose of a ship is the practice of seamanship, the craft, and the science of making a home and living in a hostile element. And as magnificent as this ship is, she is simply a tool for welding people together. And by virtue of being a spectacularly inconvenient ship, she is able to produce that process to spectacular effect. Throughout all of her programs, there is a strong unifying theme of building community through the practice of seamanship under sail. While her captains and crew are proud of the impact which they have had on all of these lives, the transformation is often most profound at the high school level. Many of these students come from less than easy circumstances. In the words of one participant, "For 5 years now, I have been taking young high school students to sail this vessel. I suppose by now I should be used to seeing the change that comes over these kids, but it never gets old. Surrounding this vessel, you see something very unique and precious, an entire community of people, young and old, who are loving life and unafraid to show it. They are committed to the highest level of work ethic, to the honor of their vessel, and to each other. They are committed to education. In this community, young hopefuls are made welcome. They are taught simply by infectious example that mutual respect is life as usual, and that hard work is a joyous norm of the day-to-day. One of my students is young for his age and comes from a family where anger is simply the way one communicates. He never had a nonviolent male role model until he came here. I have had the privilege of watching him from day to day come out of his shell and let down the walls. He has learned to smile. All of this simply through being in the company of your vessel and your crew. Although we must take him back to a less than functional home life, he has learned this week that there is a bigger world beyond his former horizons towards which he can aspire. This vessel does not take passengers, she makes mariners, and while it is no longer necessary for us to take to the sea in wooden sailing ships for the practice of war or trade or exploration, it remains necessary for us to, from time to time, take the measure of ourselves against the wilderness. And when we have arrived, we find the individuals who set out at the beginning have become family. The 2015 Sail Training Program of the Year Award is presented to the U.S. Brig Niagara. I'd like to ask Sean Waskiewicz, Executive Director of the flagship Niagara League, and Captain Walton Rybka, who needs no introduction, as well as the captain and crew of the Niagara, to please come forward and accept the award.
I think we all heard that.
Oh, that's okay. Our last award of the evening will be the Sea Education Program of the Year Award, which is awarded to a program offered by a current member of Tall Ships America, which has significantly contributed to the educational credibility of programs under sail. The program must be offered in conjunction with a school system, school group, or other recognized educational institution, must have clear curriculum of educational goals which are compatible with the curriculum goals of traditional schools, and must have qualified instructors on a certified vessel. This organization's education programs are historic, influential, and award-winning, with origins dating back to 1969. Since the inception of their learning station-based living classroom program, they have been a leader in shipboard experiential education whose influence is seen throughout the Tall Ships America member fleet. Their programs are centered on experiential, hands-on, and minds-on learning activities based on increasing program participants' environmental stewardship and sense of place. They work with roughly 12,000 participants a year with a curriculum which focuses on the amazing ecosystem and infrastructure of the Hudson River estuary, offering a range of activities focused on watershed awareness, history, water quality, geology, and navigation. Each summer they run youth empowerment trips, free programs for underrepresented students in the sailing and environmental education communities. Specifically, Young Men and Young Women at the Helm stands alone as a transformative program in sail training. It challenges students to experience an entirely different environment and forces them to depend on strangers to help them through the process. Through this program, a new corps of volunteers, interns, deckhands, and crew are generated, inspired by the many young men and young women who return to the ship and to these programs year after year. This year, 8 students came back to work on board the vessel for a week as youth interns, helping to spread the mission of environmental activism and education. We're going to show a brief video highlighting the program.
Before we say goodbye to summer, we have one last adventure this Labor Day, a crew of young women embarking on a voyage where teamwork is the only way to succeed. Remarkably, just days before, they didn't know the ropes or each other. Here's Harry Smith.
On a sleepy old sloop docked along the Hudson River north of New York City, its young crew is getting instructions. A lot of instructions.
Turn back on itself.
High schoolers from Brooklyn, Staten Island, Albany, being transformed from landlubbers to sea dogs in a program called Young Women at the Helm.
I thought it would be an amazing opportunity to see what it was like to be on a boat for real. And since like boys get to do everything, it was nice that it was a girls' trip.
Along with sailing, there's rigorous instruction in history, geography, and ecology, often taught by volunteers who themselves were once newbies on the boat.
It's not a little bit cool, it's like inexplicably cool.
Onboard educator Maya Nemisto says it's an experience that can change lives.
If you're at the helm of your life, you're the one deciding what you're doing and where you're going. And they get a chance to stand at the helm of a 100-foot ship and decide where the boat is going.
Girls who have never sailed find themselves doing things they've never dreamed of.
I was pulling ropes on a boat, and I helped it move, and I steered on the tiller, and I did a whole bunch of things.
The Clearwater was launched in 1969 by the late Pete Seeger in an effort to bring attention to the toxic state of the Hudson. The river has gained new life, and the Clearwater keeps moving those who board her.
I just want better for myself. I want to explore much more than I already have.
Yeah.
And this has really shown me that.
Maybe 3 days on the water won't make you a full-fledged mariner, but it could give you the confidence to be the captain of your own life. Harry Smith, NBC News, Beacon, New York.
The Clearwater is an incredibly important tall ship whose history of environmental, place-based education is unparalleled. The 2015 Sea Education Program of the Year Award is presented to the Hudson River Sloop Clearwater for their Young Men and Women at the Helm program. And I'd like to ask anyone in the room who's ever sailed on the Clearwater to stand up and come forward to have their picture taken with Captain Annika Savio, who will accept the award on their behalf. Oh, bring them all up then. Jan, come on, Jan. Congratulations to all of our 2015 Sail Training Award recipients. And now I'm going to ask our chairman, Mike Rawworth, to say a few words.
All right, a few words before we turn the stage over to Sail Training International for their spectrum of awards. I'd just like to expand a little bit on a theme that I mentioned earlier. And in doing that, I would like to encourage each of you to give a thought to what's gone on over the last 2 days, the sessions that you've been in, the people that you've interacted with. And for each group, the members of Sail Training International, the members of Tall Ships America, consider the dialogue you've had, the ideas you've exchanged, the interactions you've had with members from the opposite side of the Atlantic, let's say in the sessions, in the coffee breaks and so forth, and think about what you're taking away from that, because that is a major part of the essence of what we get by having these joint conferences. And my suspicion is most of you all will have some pretty significant memories in that category to take with you. And that also leads me to ask you to consider the collective nature of our respective organizations. And I think perhaps the best way to do that is to think about what your individual lives as vessel operators, principally port operators as well, would be like if there were no Sail Training International, if there were no Tall Ships America. You would certainly be able to conduct much of the business that you currently do, but I would submit that your lives would be difficult and less rich as a result. This is not simply to pat ourselves on the back. In other words, it's a way of saying that if these organizations didn't exist, it would probably be necessary for the collective body of the fleets represented here to invent them. And as you do this, think about, for example, the various tall ship events, summer events, the port events, races and rallies and so forth. Now, your vessel may not participate in those events, but I would bet that you gain ridership, you gain bookings, you gain revenue, you gain trainees as a result of the exposure that those events put into the press, onto the front pages of newspapers above the fold, onto TV, onto magazine articles. I suggest it's a rising tide that lifts all boats. Now, if these organizations didn't exist, well, there might be commercial entities that would step up to fill some of the gaps, and we know that commercial entities or other entities do run harbor events, at least, that involve sailing ships. But I would suggest to you that if these organizations cease to exist, then you would find that the benefit, the revenue that comes from these import events would flow into the pocket of private investors instead of, for example, the scholarship funds that helps place trainees, passengers, etc. on your vessels, instead of supporting events of this kind as they do, instead of supporting the collective efforts that go on, for example, in lobbying the U.S. government, the IMO, the European Union, for benefits that accrue to the fleet. And those, I would suggest to you, are benefits that perhaps could be done on an individual basis, but it's very, very difficult. To take one example, the United States now has a Sailing School Vessels Act, and that is a result of collective effort among the fleet, probably not attainable on the part of one organization by itself. So with that, I would ask you simply, as you go about the events of the rest of the evening, to take a moment, give a thought, and raise a glass to that collective, collaborative effort that we've seen so much in evidence in the last 2 days. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mike. I'd like to ask Simon Fuller from the Canadian Sail Training Association to come forward and say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi. I want to thank everybody for giving us the opportunity in front of this international audience to recognize two outstanding Canadians that have made a lifetime commitment to sail training and that have made a powerful impact on sail training in Canada and on tens of thousands of youth and Canadians. On behalf of the members of the board of the Canadian Sail Training Association and the squadron members, it is my pleasure to present the Canadian Sail Training Association Lifetime Achievement Award to Captain Martin and Marg Clark. By way of background, by way of background, Martin was born in India and spent many of his formative years there, but immigrated to Canada at the age of 13 to Toronto of all places, and immediately culture shock set in. And Martin felt a little bit of an outcast in that area until one day his father took him to a youth camp, and it was at that youth camp that he met his Margaret, and they formed a lifelong partnership together. They attended the University of Toronto, and at a very young age they were bitten by the bug, the sailing bug, and they bought a small sloop. And whenever the wind blew, they would play hooky and go down to the lake, and it's there that they learned their seamanship skills aboard that sloop. They promised each other through a long courtship that when they married, they would take their honeymoon on a schooner, which they did. And they worked incredibly hard and scraped together the grand sum of $7,000 and bought their schooner and took their honeymoon and sailed down south. And when they returned to Canada, they went out to British Columbia and they started very successful businesses in chartering, fishing industry, and they all of a sudden realized that they weren't sailing anymore. And at that very time, the opportunity arose where the Sail and Life Training Society was looking for new direction. And Martin and Marg Clark joined that organization, and through their efforts, they revitalized that organization. Martin holds a 500-ton master's ticket with sail endorsement. He's the co-founder of the Canadian Sail Training Association, a past director of the American Sail Training Association, and the past executive director for over 18 years of the Sail and Life Training Society. He is a graduate with honors in English literature from the University of Toronto, and he is the author of Seamanship Under Sail. He is a fundraiser extraordinaire, and as a shipbuilder, he oversaw the rebuilding of the schooner Robertson II, the rigging of the brigantine Spirit of Chemainus, and the building of the two topsail schooners Pacific Swift and Pacific Grace. Margaret is a veteran sailor, first mate on the Pacific Swift during her world voyage to Australia, a ham radio operator, Bachelor of Science in Nursing from the University of Toronto, and as a multitasker at one time, she has been cook, officer of the watch, nurse, seamstress, booking agent, and teacher. They have dedicated their life to giving thousands of young people a chance to grow physically, mentally, spiritually through the medium of sail training. All of us here, I'm sure, I'm preaching to the converted, know that there are many things worthwhile doing, but perhaps few as worthwhile as making a difference in a young person's life, and few things that will pay back as large dividends. And all of us in the Canadian Sail Training Association and the thousands and thousands of young people that have gone across the decks of the vessels in the SALTS program owe a great debt of gratitude to Martin and Marg Clark. Perhaps most endearing is the fact that they were able to train a very competent crew of people to continue running SALTS and to grow it even stronger to this very day. And that it speaks volumes to their legacy. And so without further ado, Mr. Chairman, unfortunately the Clarks could not be here this evening, but it is my pleasure to present to the chairman of the International Sail Training Association and also a fellow Canuck, the Canadian Sail Training Association Lifetime Achievement Award to Captain Martin and Margaret Clark.
Thank you, Sam. I'm sure that many in the room know Martin and Marg and have been touched by their work, and certainly, as Simon mentioned, the program at SALTS is not just a leader in the industry here in Canada, but worldwide. I think we're now going to move on to the Sail Training International Awards. So, Paul.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce the annual awards for Sail Training International, and a particular pleasure to be doing that alongside our friends from Tall Ships America and also the Canadian Sail Training Association. Before we start with the 6 annual awards that recognise the wider range of individuals and organisations that have made a significant contribution to sail training, thank you, Brian, particularly during the past year. But first, if we have 2 race awards, and the first one is the best newcomer to the Tall Ships Races 2015. This goes to a vessel that was built in 1987 and is proven to be one of the delivering the best youth sail training programs in the world, as defined by the University of Edinburgh International Research Project. She sailed halfway around the world to join the Tall Ships Races in Kristiansand and to complete the race to Aalborg. Her captain and crew made an immediate and positive impact on the event, promoting the ideals of sail training and international friendship. They were sent around the world as ambassadors for their country, which they did in an exemplary fashion. They quickly built up a reputation for competitive racing, colourful participation in the crew parade, and always ensuring they had a great presence at every party, obviously strictly in the pursuit for international friendship and understanding. The Newcomer Award goes to a vessel from Australia, Young Endeavour. Okay. Yep. Thanks, Steve. Thank you and congratulations, Steve Moss. The Greatest Loyalty Award goes to a vessel that was built by unemployed youngsters and launched in 1996. The project built this gaff-rigged schooner, provided these youngsters with the skills that would help them find their jobs more easily. She has entered almost every race since 1998. She is owned by a human resource company who uses the vessel to host clients, but more importantly, to fulfill their corporate and social responsibility. When she isn't taking part in that, she's taking part in the Tall Ships races, and she's entered almost every race since 1998. She has made an outstanding contribution to the Tall Ships races over the years, and may we present this award on behalf of RuPaul to the country representative of Belgium, Dirk. Dirk, are you here, please? Dirk Guns. Okay, thanks. Well done. Congratulations, STA Belgium and RuPaul in particular. And now for the Sail Trainer Under 26 Award.
This young man has been part of a well-respected sail training program since he was 12. He comes from a small community of 450 people on Baffin Island. His love of nature and water was born there in kayaks and canoes. For practical reasons, there was no sailing yachts there. When he was 12, he got a chance to go on board the sail training vessel St. Lawrence II. On a 4-day voyage, he discovered that he loved sailing. This led to a 10-day voyage and to him asking the captain if he could become a crew member. He is now the most senior youth officer on board of St. Lawrence II. His leadership skills and the ability to take charge while still getting along with others, his love of the sea, sailing, and he knows that sail training is all about helping each other. He is a great example of what the program can do. Can we present this award to Simonique Tamela from Canada? Hey. And now for the sail training volunteer under 26. Age 24, he was the first visually impaired young person to complete the Ocean Youth Trust Scotland's Young Leaders Development Programme in 2007. Since he has been very active since then, a volunteer of the Trust, contributing thousands of voluntary hours both ashore and afloat. Through his voluntary work with the VI Society, MAX, he pioneered an annual residential sail training voyage for young people with visual impairment. In 2012, he entered the whole crew of blind young trainees in the Torships race. Now, in its 6th year, over 150 youngsters with visual impairment have had life-changing experience. He works tirelessly to make sure sail training is accessible to all young people, regardless of ability and disability. As a blind sailor, he is a superb role model and an inspirational to all, and a pleasure to sail with him. I'm sure that everyone who knows him would agree that Robbie Crowe is a very worthy winner for this award. Robbie. Thank you very much, Brian, for your help there. And now we'd invite our chairman, Doug Prothero, to award the final 4 trophies. Okay, the Sail Training Volunteer of the Year. This nomination is for a man who spent a lot of time volunteering for his ship, most of the time in a land organisation with the maintenance and repairs in the workshop on board. He always gives an enormous support to his ship, Ingo, and spends several hours a day volunteering for his ship, always managing to solve even the seemingly impossible situation. He's in charge of the ship's interior, and under his lead, the entire interior was rebuilt in just a few weeks in 2013. Thanks to his efforts, Ingo was ready on time to the first sail training voyage in the spring, and not a single sailing day has been lost due since the broken part of the ship. He has been an active volunteer for more than 10 years in this organisation, on board since 2006, and as their chairman since 2012. This award goes to Otto Stein from Sweden, and can I ask Lilian Westerberg, the chairman of STA Sweden, to collect this award on his behalf. Congratulations to Otto and to STA Sweden. And now the Sail Trainer of the Year. This award goes to someone who started her career in 2003 as a trainee on Alexander von Humboldt and became an ordinary seaman in May 2007. She steadily climbed the ladder until she became the first mate and then was appointed captain of Alexander von Humboldt II in December 2014 to become the first female captain, we believe, of a German tall ship. A very charismatic woman, equally accepted as experienced, qualified captains and the entire crew, the trainees, and most of all of her fellow captains. She is highly respected. She is dedicated to conveying her knowledge not only to her fellow crew, but also to the trainees joining her voyages, and to teach them the traditional sailing skills on a tall ship. This award goes to Captain Marin Reif of SDA Germany, and could we ask Jürgens and Jens to come up and collect this award on her behalf. Now to the final two awards for this ceremony. The first, the Vessel Operator of the Year, goes to the smaller vessel Operator of the Year. It goes to a foundation that operates a purpose-built and most impressive schooner that was launched in 2006. The core program provides 5-day voyages during the school year, taking approximately 18 students between 11 and 14 and 2 teachers from the same school. They use expeditionary learning design principles. Activities are connected to the school curriculum with an inquiry-based learning strategies. In addition to activities that connect the middle school curriculum with an ultimate goal of helping them stay in school, trainees learn the value of being healthy, the power of taking responsibility for oneself. Socially, they come to an understanding of real teamwork, collaboration, and become more self-aware. Post-voyage involvement with their young people also includes mentoring and identification of career paths. For example, they recommend students for the Marine Internship Scholarship programs at the Institute of Ocean Sciences. They're rightly proud of what they have accomplished since 2006. The vessels and what it represents is now woven into the fabric of their community and is considered a national icon. Spirit of Bermuda. And can we invite the Spirit of Bermuda team up to collect this award? Okay. No Stuart? No? Okay. Well, let's give them another round of applause in their absence. Okay, and finally, the Vessel Operator of the Year. This vessel is over 100 years old and has taken part in the many tall ships races and regattas all over the world, many times in Europe, but also in South Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, United States, Canada, East and West Coast, as well as the Great Lakes. She undertakes expeditions visiting the Antarctica from December till May and has rounded Cape Horn on numerous occasions. Whenever she goes, she invariably has an international crew with more nationalities than any other sail training tall ship in that event. Her unique, relaxed and friendly style on board creates a wonderful environment for everybody to learn the arts of seamanship and teamwork. They ensure everybody on board is nurtured and finds their best place to realise their full potential during every voyage. Countless young people and not so young people have benefited from the amazing experience aboard this vessel under the outstanding leadership of their captains and crew members. From the Netherlands, this award goes to Europa. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, Ali, and Brian. I'm going to save my remarks, my closing remarks, for later in the evening. We're a little tight for time, and as you might imagine, this room has to change a little in order for us to do the gala. So I'd like to call on Aoife to come up and give some remarks from the youth side. Thank you.
You'll all just have to bear with me now for a minute. I was hoping someone else was going to have to do that first. And now I get the challenge of the torch. Well, good evening, everyone. For those of you who are lucky enough not to know me, my name is Aoife. I'm Ireland's representative on the Youth Council, and I've been involved with the world of sail training for a little over 5 years now. I've been given the great honour of contributing to the closing ceremony of what I'm sure you'll all agree has been a fantastic conference in the beautiful city of Quebec. Tonight, to do this, tonight, I'm going to share with you what sail training means to me. Now, I've managed to reduce this down to 3 points you'll all be happy to hear. It starts with my first sail training experience. I found out I was going on my first voyage about 10 days before I was due to embark. It took me about 3 days on board to confirm I hated it. I was completely out of my comfort zone. I didn't know anyone. I was the youngest on board, and quite frankly, I hadn't a clue what was going on. This probably isn't how you imagined I would start my speech, but have a little faith. Just before I had joined the ship, I'd been accepted to study engineering in Dublin. This became common knowledge on board, and as a result, the two engineers at the time, Jenny and Rachel, adopted me into what some might call slave labour. Next thing I knew, I was moving buckets of grey water, crawling around bilges, changing simple things like light bulbs, and having the most hilarious attempt at epoxy resin you've ever seen. I was happy. In fact, I was the happiest I've ever been. I even turned traitor and started to help out on deck. I've conveniently remembered that I have a few photos to show you about this. That's my epoxy resin attempt. I still have that as a memoir. And this is me, women working overhead. So I was as happy as anything, and I left the ship more ready than I ever was to start my engineering degree, or so I thought. I stayed in touch with Rachel, Jenny, and a few others from that voyage. We meet up whenever we can, and that brings me to my first point, what sail training is to me. It's all about the people. Some like to measure travel by sticking pins in board or scratching countries off maps. Me, I like to measure travel in people. So let me explain what I mean. A good trip to me is a trip where perhaps I've made new friends, built on previous relationships, or even dealt with some difficult people who I may have had different words for at the time. But how can we make these deep and meaningful relationships in such a short period, a short voyage? Well, I have this theory, and I've always wanted my own theory. And that theory is that one day on board equates to 1 month of getting to know someone. This helps explain a few things that we see on ships. I'm sure psychologists could explain it, but I'm just going to call it the beautiful nature of sail training. The kind of friends you make aren't the normal kind, and I'm not trying to say they're weird. I know sailors are weird, but that's not the point. They're not needy. They don't require constant love and attention. You each have separate lives, and that's completely okay, until 2 years later maybe you meet on a gangway or at a conference. One of the best sailing friends I've ever made is Aoife. And no, it's not myself. That would be very sad. No, this is Aoife and I. We tackled the final leg of the 2012 races together from La Coruña to Dublin as bosun's mates on the Lord Nelson. As some of you might recall, this was a bit of a bouncy race, which brings me on to my second point. Sailing is all about the challenge. Everyone's challenge is different. For Aoife and I, our challenge was to carry on our normal deck and racing duties while the sea attempted to batter and bruise us. For some, it was to keep their dinner down. For the permanent crew, it was to get us to Dublin as quickly and as safely as possible. But working with the Jubilee Sailing and Trust, Aoife and I get to witness some very special mental and physical challenges being overcome. I'll just share one story, because there are so many, and you're probably all thinking about having a drink right now. I know I might be. I was aloft to stow the main course one day. I'd been paired with a man you see in this picture called David. I was told he knew exactly what he was doing and he could go out on the yard first. So I'm thinking, fantastic, a bit easier for me. We get out there and everything is going fine. Next thing he asks me, where is the clew gasket? Now, it was dangling in front of the yard, but I thought it was pretty obvious. So I pointed and I said, well, it's there. And I think you might see where I'm going with this. David was very blind. I put the clew gasket in his hand and he finished the job like a pro. I sail not only for the personal challenge, but to see others overcome their challenges. Sometimes I am in the lucky position to help people overcome those challenges. But let's be honest, that day David didn't need any help. Now don't worry, my third reason for sailing is a little less serious, and I hope it's the most obvious. It's something in Ireland we call the crack. Now I've put in a little definition there, but I think the safest word to use is actually fun. This terrible thing happened to me recently, which threatened to bring an end to my fun. I got a real job. I thought, that's it, the end. No more summers to spend sailing. But all was not lost. As I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a member of the Youth Council. This means I'm now in a very strong position to help spread the word of sail training to young people all over the world. This involves continuing to meet new people, continuing to take on new challenges, and keep having that all-important fun. So that's it. That's what sail training means to me. When each of you have a spare moment, I would like you all to think, what does sail training mean to you? Thank you very much.
As they say, follow that. I just suggest we give Aoife one more round of applause, because I thought that was good. So this is it. The work's done. All it's left to do now is drink, party, have fun. The drinks reception starts this evening at 7:30 across the way from this room, and dinner is in here at 8 o'clock. One final little bit of admin. Can we please ask you to complete the online survey for the overall conference survey? That is on the web address, which is on the back of your programs. If we could all please, we are running a little late, so if we can vacate this room in a speedy manner without running, and see you later. Have fun. Thank you.